The storm did not ask permission before it swallowed them. 1 minute, the forest outside Aspen was calm and bright, snow glittering under a pale sun. The next, the sky darkened like someone had pulled a curtain closed, and the wind came screaming through the trees. Lucas felt the cold bite through his jacket as he stopped walking, his heart dropping into his stomach. When he turned around, the trail they had been following was gone, erased under fresh snow. That was the moment he knew this was no longer just a simple walk. Lucas was 24 and used to control. He controlled his time, his work, his small life in Denver, where nothing unexpected ever happened. He coded websites from his couch, went on quiet runs, and kept people at a safe distance. Chaos made him uncomfortable. And now chaos stood in front of him, white and endless, with no clear way back. Behind him stood Elena, Jake's mum. She was 44, calm on the surface, her long brown hair tucked into her coat, a red scarf wrapped around her neck. She did not panic. Not yet. She just watched the trees, her green eyes sharp, like she was measuring the storm instead of fearing it. "We should head back," Lucas said, trying to sound steady. Elena nodded. "Yes, now." They turned, but the forest looked the same in every direction. Snow fell harder, thick and heavy, blurring everything into a moving wall of white. Lucas pulled out his phone. No signal. 10% battery. His chest tightened. "I think we're lost," he said. Elena did not answer right away. She slid her hands deeper into her pockets and took a slow breath. "Then we stop rushing," she said, "and we think." Lucas wished he had her confidence. Just 2 days earlier, his life had felt simple. Jake had called him, loud and excited, begging him to come on a ski trip to Aspen. Lucas had resisted, like he always did, but Jake never accepted no combo. He had mentioned his mum was coming too, said it would be calm, almost family-like. Lucas had agreed, packing old thermal clothes and telling himself it was only for a few days. Elena had always been a quiet presence in his life. He had known her since he was 15. She was never the loud, joking type. She carried herself with a kind of controlled stillness, like someone who had learned not to waste energy. Jake once told him she used to be a war photographer. Lucas had believed it instantly. There was something in her eyes that suggested she had seen things she never talked about. At the lodge she had stayed away from the noise, sipping coffee by the window while Jake and his friends turned the place upside down. Lucas had noticed her red scarf first. It stood out against the snow, against the wood and stone of the lodge. He had not thought much of it at the time. The walk had been her idea as much as his. Neither of them wanted the chaos of snowboards and shouting, just a quiet trail, just fresh air. Now the air cut like glass. The wind howled louder, shaking branches above them. Lucas's boots sank deeper into the snow with every step. His fingers were stiff. He glanced at Eleanor again. Her lips were pale now. She was colder than she admitted. "Lucas," she said, stopping suddenly. "Slow down." He turned, breathing hard. "We have to keep moving." "We have to move smart," she replied. "You're leading us in circles." He looked around, realizing she was right. Panic rose fast, sharp and ugly. He shoved his phone back into his pocket, ashamed of how little help it was. "I'm sorry," he said. "This was my idea." Elena shook her head. Snow clung to her coat, melting into dark patches. "Storms like this come fast. This isn't your fault." They started again, slower. The snow kept falling. Time stretched, losing shape. Lucas's legs burned. His breath came out in rough clouds. Fear crept in, quiet but heavy. He had watched enough survival videos to know how bad this could get. Elena stumbled once, catching herself on a buried root. Lucas grabbed her arm without thinking. She was trembling. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," she said too quickly. "Just cold." They walked another few minutes before Elena stopped again. She placed a hand on his shoulder, firm. "Lucas, listen to me," she said. "We need shelter. Wandering will only make it worse." Her voice was calm, but he could hear the strain beneath it. He nodded. For the first time, he let her take the lead. They moved downhill, scanning the trees. The light faded fast, the day giving up early. Just as Lucas felt hope slipping away, Elena pointed ahead. "There," she said. Through the snow he saw it, a small, dark shape against the white, a cabin. It was old and weathered, barely standing, but it was real. Lucas pushed the door open, his shoulder aching as it creaked wide. Inside, the air smelled of damp wood and dust, but it was dry, safe. They stepped in and closed the door behind them, the storm muffled but still angry outside. Lucas found a wood stove, kindling, matches. His hands shook as he worked, but the fire caught. Warmth spread slowly, painfully good. Elena sank onto a bench, peeling off her gloves, her breath unsteady. "You did good," she said softly. Lucas handed her a blanket. She wrapped it around herself, the red scarf slipping loose at her collar. In the firelight, she looked different. Tired. Human. Not just Jake's mum. They sat there, close, but not touching, listening to the fire crackle and the wind scream outside. For the first time since the storm began, Lucas felt the fear ease slightly, but something else settled in its place, a quiet awareness. They were alone. And whatever happened next would change more than just this night. The fire grew stronger, snapping softly as the cold was pushed back inch by inch. Shadows danced along the cabin walls, stretching and shrinking like they were alive. Outside, the storm continued its assault, wind slamming into the wood as if testing how badly it wanted to get in. Inside, time slowed. Elena pulled the blanket tighter around herself and stared into the flames. Lucas sat beside her, close enough to feel the heat from her body, but not close enough to touch. His hands rested on his knees, stiff and unsure. The silence between them was not awkward, but it was heavy, filled with things neither of them knew how to say. "You handled that well out there," Elena said quietly. Lucas let out a short breath, didn't feel like it. She glanced at him, the firelight reflecting in her eyes. "Most people panic. You didn't." "Not completely." He almost laughed at that. Panic had been clawing at his chest the entire time. "I was terrified," he admitted. "I just didn't want you to see it." Her expression softened. "I saw it," she said. "I just saw you push through it." That made his throat tighten. The cabin creaked as a gust of wind hit it hard. Elena shivered, a sharp tremor running through her shoulders. Lucas noticed immediately. "You're still cold," he said. She nodded, teeth clenched. "A little." He hesitated, then stood and grabbed another blanket from the crate. He wrapped it around her shoulders, his fingers brushing her arm by accident. She did not pull away. Instead, she exhaled slowly, like she had been holding her breath for a long time. "Thank you," she said. Lucas sat back down, closer this time. Their knees touched, neither of them moved away. Minutes passed, or maybe longer, it was hard to tell. Elena spoke again, her voice quieter now. "Jake worries too much." Lucas smiled faintly. "He gets that from you." She let out a soft laugh, brief but real. "Maybe." Then her expression changed, the humor fading. "I don't like when he sees me weak." "You weren't weak today," Lucas said without thinking. She turned to him. "I was shaking. And you still kept us alive." Their eyes held. Something shifted in the air, subtle, but undeniable. The labels that usually defined them felt distant now. Best friend's mum. Kid I watched grow up. None of it fit in this small, flickering space. Another shiver ran through her. This time Lucas didn't hesitate. He slipped his jacket off and draped it over her shoulders, over the blankets. "Lucas," she started. "I'm fine," he said quickly. "I run cold anyway." That was a lie. He was freezing. But when she looked at him the way she did then, like he had done something that mattered, it felt worth it. She adjusted the jacket, pulling it closer, her fingers brushing his chest for just a second. The contact sent a jolt through him, sharp and unexpected. "Elena," he said, his voice lower now, "we should probably stay close. For warmth." She studied his face, searching for something. Whatever she found made her nod. "Yes," she said. "We'll have to keep each other warm." They shifted, sitting shoulder to shoulder, then closer, until there was no space left between them. Lucas wrapped an arm around her, stiff at first, unsure. She leaned into him, slowly, carefully, like she was testing whether this was real. Her head rested against his shoulder. Her hair brushed his jaw, damp and cold. The warmth came faster than he expected, not just from the fire, but from her. From the simple fact that they were no longer alone in this. Elena's breathing began to slow. Lucas could feel it, steady and deep. He rested his cheek lightly against the top of her head. It felt intimate in a way that scared him. "I don't usually do this," she said suddenly. "Me neither," he replied. She tilted her head up, looking at him. "I don't mean the storm, I mean letting someone see me like this." He swallowed. "I'm not great at it either." Her hand slipped out from under the blanket and rested on his arm. Her fingers were warmer now. "After my husband died," she said, staring at the fire again, "I learned how to survive. I forgot how to feel." Lucas listened, every word settling into him. She spoke slowly, carefully, like she was choosing which memories to release. "I became Jake's mum and nothing else," she continued. "Strong, reliable. Always fine." She paused. "But tonight, I'm just tired." She tightened his arm around her slightly. "You don't have to be strong right now." She leaned into him more fully then. Her hands slid up his chest, resting there, feeling his heartbeat. It was fast. "I can feel you shaking," she said softly. He gave a quiet laugh. "Guess I'm not hiding it very well." "Good," she said. "Neither am I." She lifted her face toward his. Their foreheads touched, breath mingling. Lucas's heart pounded so hard, he was sure she could hear it. "This is complicated," he said, even as he leaned closer. "Yes," she agreed. "It is." Neither of them moved away. Their lips met, gently at first. The kiss was slow, unsure, like a question rather than an answer. Eleanor's hand curled into his jacket. Lucas responded without thinking, pulling her closer, the blanket slipping around them. The kiss deepened, still careful, still quiet. There was no rush, no hunger. Just connection, just two people finding warmth in the middle of fear. When they finally pulled back, their foreheads rested together again. Elena's eyes were closed. "We should stop," she whispered. Lucas nodded. "We should." Neither of them moved. Instead, she tucked herself against him again, her head under his chin, his arms secure around her. The fire burned low but steady. Outside, the storm continued, but it felt farther away now. They stayed like that for a long time, holding on, not crossing lines but standing right at the edge of them. And somewhere deep inside, both of them knew that whatever this was, it was already changing everything. The fire burned low through the night, its glow turning soft and orange, barely strong enough to keep the shadows away. The wind outside did not stop, but it lost its anger, settling into a steady howl that sounded less like a threat and more like a warning. Inside the cabin, time felt suspended, like the world had decided to leave them alone for a while. Lucas stayed awake longer than he expected. Elena slept against him, her head resting on his chest, her breathing slow and even. His arm was wrapped around her, careful not to move, afraid that even the smallest shift would break the fragile peace they had found. He felt the steady warmth between them and wondered how something born out of fear could feel so grounding. At some point, exhaustion pulled him under. When Lucas woke again, the cabin was quiet. The wind had faded. The fire had collapsed into glowing embers. Pale grey light leaked through the small window, painting the wooden walls in cold morning colors. His neck ached, his legs were stiff, and his fingers were numb again, but there was something else he noticed first. Eleanor was still there. She stirred as he shifted slightly, lifting her head and blinking as if waking from a deep dream. For a moment she looked confused, then aware. Her eyes met his. "You're still here," she said softly. "Yeah," Lucas replied. "I'm not going anywhere." She studied his face, really looked at him, like she was trying to remember how she had ended up here. Then she gave a small, tired smile and leaned back against him for just a second longer. Neither of them spoke about the night. There was no need. A distant sound broke the quiet, A low, rhythmic thump, faint at first, then stronger. Lucas's heart jumped. "Do you hear that?" Elena sat up straighter, listening. Her face changed, relief spreading across it. A helicopter. The sound grew louder, unmistakable now. Voices followed, muffled but real. Someone was calling out. "They found us," she said. The words carried relief, but also something else. An ending. Lucas stood, his legs protesting, and helped her up. She gathered her scarf, her thermos, his jacket. Her movements were calm again, controlled, like she was putting herself back together piece by piece. "Thank you," she said, meeting his eyes. "For everything." He wanted to say more, to ask what this meant, to ask if it meant anything at all, but the words stayed stuck in his chest. "I'm glad it was you," he said instead. She nodded, holding his gaze just a second longer than necessary, then she turned toward the door. The cold hit them hard when they stepped outside, but the storm was over. Snow lay thick and untouched, the forest quiet and still. The helicopter hovered nearby, its lights cutting through the grey morning. Rescue workers moved toward them, shouting instructions. Jake was there. Lucas saw him first, panic written all over his face. Jake ran through the snow and wrapped Elena in a tight hug, his voice breaking as he spoke. Lucas stood back, suddenly aware of where he fit again. Best friend, nothing more. Jake turned to him next, grabbing his shoulders. "Man, I thought we lost you both." "We're okay," Lucas said. "We found shelter." Elena spoke up then, calm and steady. "Lucas kept us together." Jake looked at him with pure relief. "You're a lifesaver." Lucas forced a smile. They were wrapped in blankets, checked over, guided into the helicopter. Elena sat across from him, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her scarf back in place. She looked composed, distant, like the woman Lucas had always known, but when their eyes met for a brief moment, something flickered there, something only they understood. Back at the lodge, the world rushed back in. Questions, hot drinks, paramedics, noise. Lucas answered what he had to, but his mind stayed in that cabin. Elena stayed close to Jake, reassuring him, laughing softly at his overreactions. She did not look at Lucas again. They left Aspen the next day. The drive back was quiet. Jake talked, filling the space, but Lucas barely heard him. He watched the snow-covered mountains fade behind them, and felt like he was leaving something unfinished behind. Back in Denver, life returned to normal. Or at least it tried to. Lucas went back to his apartment, his code, his runs. But something had shifted. The walls he had built felt thinner now. The quiet felt louder. He texted Elena once, just to ask if she was okay. No reply. He waited, then tried again a week later. Still nothing. He told himself it was for the best. That whatever happened in that cabin was a moment, not a future. That some things existed only to remind you that you were still alive. A month passed. Then one evening, Lucas came home to find a small package at his door. Plain. No return address. Inside was Eleanor's red scarf, folded carefully. It still smelled faintly of pine and coffee. Tucked inside was a short note in neat handwriting. Not the last night. Not the first either. I know where you are. Lucas sat on the edge of his bed, holding the scarf, his heart pounding. It was not a promise. It was not a goodbye. It was a door left unlocked. He did not rush to knock. Some moments were meant to stay quiet. Some connections did not need answers right away. What mattered was that in the middle of a storm, two people had found warmth, honesty, and something real. And that was enough. For now.